Welcome to the Contrarians, and tonight we are looking at our top 3 transitional albums. The panel is here. Let's get this started. Welcome to the Contrarians. Tonight we have a great topic. What our top 3 transitional albums. So you're saying, Grant, what are you talking about? Well, these are records like, let's say you have a certain album and then the band puts out another record and it is totally different than the other album. You're sitting there going, whoa, wait, because it's such a departure. So we're going to look at our top 3. I think I've got 2 prepared. I'm sure I can rally and get another one, but I want to welcome the panel here tonight. We've got Rand, Kevin, Butch, and Tom here tonight. Pontus is supposed to be on this episode. He may show up, and if he comes on, we will roll with it. So let's get started. I guess I'm going to start with how I see it. I'm going to go Rand, Kevin, Butch, and Tom, and me. We'll just go around. Rand Kelly, welcome to the show. Nice to see you. What is your first pick?
Okay, so I don't want to belabor this intro too much, but the band, I love the band. I've listened to them since day one. Their first album knocked me off my feet. The second album knocked me off my feet. I went and saw them live. Mm-hmm. They opened for Jefferson Starship in Sacramento. And it was so funny when Jefferson Starship was playing, somebody in the crowd put up a big cardboard thing of this huge eagle with all these talons right in front of the band while they were playing. I'm talking, of course, about Kansas.
No.
And I think you could have called this the Jump the Shark album too.
I think I know where you're going, though. I'm not going to say anything.
So anyways, they went through all these personnel changes and stuff. And of course, Kerry Livgren left the band and they needed a guitar player. So they ended up getting Steve Morse, who I already knew from Dixie Dregs. I'm a huge fan of Steve Morse. And they came in he came in 1986 and did this killer freaking album called Power, which just blew everybody's mind, because it was it was a lot like Dixie Dregs with Steve Walsh singing lead vocal, especially on the opening cut. I think it's called Silhouettes in Disguise. Oh my God, what a song. So anyway, the next one comes up and the rumors were out already that Bob Ezrin's producing the new Kansas. Oh, this is going to be killer. This, Alice Cooper, Pink Floyd, Peter Gabriel. This guy's amazing producer. So it comes out in 1988 and it's called In the Spirit of Things. And this is the weirdest Kansas album in the world right here. This album is, I think he tried to make it sound like The Wall, 9 years later, but it doesn't, and it doesn't rock. It's an interesting story about floods and ghosts of I think Galveston, Texas, if I'm not mistaken. But this is a weird album. The first tune is called Ghosts, and then you sit and listen to it and you go, if you listen to it with your friends and they go, are you sure this is Kansas? It's like these were in the bargain bin for $1.
See, I don't even, Rand, I know I've never heard that record. I recognize the cover, but yeah, it's one of those Kansas albums. It's just kind of.
It's one of those albums where I always said, if it was their only album, it's not a bad album.
Right.
It just doesn't sound like Kansas.
Well, I thought you were going to say Audio Visions because I
love
think
that.
Yeah, but you have to admit that's a little bit.
Yeah, but you know what? There's one song on there called No One Together that's just unbelievable. It's really proggy. But the rest of it, yeah, you're right. It's a lot of funk. The drummer Phil Ehart on that album, Audio Visions, he's funking it out on a lot of songs, especially Curtain of Iron or whatever. I think that's one. But I just think that In the Spirit of Things was a real. This is like Kiss the Elder. This is just really out of their wheelhouse.
Well, I think maybe Unmasked was more out of their wheelhouse than the Elder.
I'll tell you what, I'm not.
That could be a whole other show.
I had the Elder. I had to get rid of it.
I love the Elder. That's like one of my favorite records.
I thought it sounded like Uriah Heep with no keyboard player.
Oh, there you go. All right, so we're going to go with Kansas. All right, that's good.
Thank you.
I'm good with that. All right, Kevin T. Thank you, Rand, by the way. Kevin T., let's throw it over to you. What's your first choice?
Okay. First of all, great to be here again. I haven't been on in at least a month. So
good to see you, Kevin.
Oh my God. Well, glad you're back.
Yeah, this is an interesting topic. I actually was the one that just suggested it. So
well, crap. Kevin, we should have started out with you then.
Oh, that's totally fine.
All right.
I sort of looked at it like these are standout albums as far as the sound, but it's also taking a bit from the albums that came before it and gave you a preview of maybe what was to come in the band's catalog. So along with that, my first pick is Power Age by AC/DC. Coming off of Let There Be Rock, which is a very heavy guitar album. I feel like the sound of this album, the guitars are turned down a bit, so Bond doesn't have to scream as much. They brought in Cliff Williams on bass as kind of first major member change in a while for the band, and he also brought some background vocals because he could sing a little bit. And so you start to see some more gang choruses that you would see going forward, starting with Highway to Hell on the next album, on songs like Rock and Roll Damnation and Give Me a Bullet. It's also the last album where, their first few albums that had this kind of tricky release, and the Australian album would be different than the international releases. The track listings would be all different.
Yeah.
I actually have the UK and the US version of this because there's an additional or a different song on the UK release that's not on the US release. And the mixes are also different on the UK release. There's different intros and outros. It's really interesting. So it's the last album where they kind of have that situation going on where there's just a weirdness about the release and who gets what album in what part of the world. It's also, I think, the last time we get a really strange mix of songs on an album. Going forward, I think starting with Highway to Hell and then definitely in the Brian era, everything basically has that AC/DC classic sound that we know. And that's where I think people start to say, all their songs sound the same, all the albums sound the same. This one, I think, stands out a bit. You've got songs like Gone Shootin', What's Next to the Moon, Down Payment Blues. These are all kind of just a little bit different, especially a song like Gone Shootin'. I don't think they've ever done something like that since. Almost sounds kind of Southern rocky. And then, I think the band even talks about they were sort of looking around at the time what was going on with punk and things like that, and they wanted to sound totally different than that. And so the name of the album came from, well, what age are we in? Are we in, centuries ago we had the Iron Age and the Stone Age. We're in the Power Age. And so they really wanted to project that and be something different than some of the other music that was coming out around them at the time. So those are my reasons for my first pick.
Well, that's good. I never really thought about it. I really didn't think much of a departure until much later. But after you've talked about it, I think Power Age really was a kind of a departure. It's a lot different. It's a different album from Let There Be Rock, It's true. Yeah.
And it's a lot less slick than Highway to Hell.
True. But do you think Power Age is as good as a record as Highway to Hell or just different?
Power Age is my favorite AC/DC album just because of that slight variation of things. And I'm a huge Bon Scott fan. And maybe I overplayed Highway to Hell. That's a great album too. But I just like the quirkiness of Power Age.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you. Excellent.
Kevin, is the extra track, the track on the European version or the UK version is what, Cold Hearted Man?
Yes.
And I get that. That's a great song.
It is a great song. And I think they drop, what's the one they drop?
Cold Hearted Man was track 9.
Yeah, it's all out of order too. They don't have Rock and Roll Damnation on the UK version.
So let me ask you this, Kevin. Stop talking about it.
Yeah.
Which version do you like better? Do you think the US version's stronger or the UK version?
The US one is the one I first listened to, so that's the one I always grab. But I do love Cold Hearted Man, and it's a fun listening to the UK version just for those different mixes. There's different intros and outros, like I said, and it's just it's slight, but it is different.
But with AC/DC, I think that they Well, on the international releases or the US releases, they always drop songs, added songs. Ever since the 60s, you guys know this. The US, look at the Beatles records. They totally would revamp the records for the US market. And the funny thing is, even into the 70s, the US record labels were doing that with all these foreign acts. It's just funny. You wouldn't, nowadays you wouldn't even think about it, but heck, they were still doing this. This is what, 77, 78? They're still revamping these records. It's just funny.
You're right, though. That early discography of AC/DC is really confusing because it's all these different releases and same songs on different albums. It's like, what is going on?
See, that would be a fun show. See, this is where we talk about this stuff, ladies and gentlemen. We always get shows about, it'd be fun to look at the whole AC/DC catalog and just how it's progressed and what they did with the old releases. I don't know.
It'd have to be a miniseries.
A mini-series. We could do it in 4 mini-series. All right, Kevin T., thank you very much. It's a great one. Yeah, I never really thought about it, but yeah, you're totally right. Butch, nice to see you. How are you?
Good to see you. I'm great.
You're up next, my friend.
Word. I'm going to start obscure, or semi-obscure anyway. One of my favorite bands of all time, certainly in my top 3, was a band called Angel.
Yeah.
Out of originated in the Washington, D.C. area. Legendarily kind of discovered by Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley. Got signed to Casablanca after Neil Bogart tried to get them on some shows with Kiss, and Gene Simmons said there's no way that band will ever open for Kiss, so Neil Bogart signed them sight unseen. They come out on those first 2 records that they put out, there's some hype behind them. The money's behind them. They come out there and they're all like the glamorous costumes with the big stage show. And, they're doing things like Winning Circus, Newcomer of the Year over, Heart in Boston. I don't know how much payroll is involved in that. I think it's great if they did it, that they did it. It's in there, so it happened. And for me, I mean, they are the best they're my favorite out of those 3 anyway. But anyway, so this band comes out. They're having some success, especially on the road. They're out opening for bands like Rush and Rainbow, and they're building their fan base, but they can't. The first album comes out, it's in the lower quarter of the Billboard charts. Hell of a Band comes out next, also in the lower quarter. I mean, it does a little bit better, but they have no hits. I mean, they've got songs like Tower that are famous with their fan base that are great songs. I mean, The Fortune on the second record. I mean, there are these songs that have been in their set now for years that are among the fan base are big. And in the Midwest, in certain areas, I know, especially St. Louis, they were really popular. And places like Cleveland, they could play, they started to be able to headline these places just based on their show and a lot of the touring that they did. So obviously Casablanca's pressuring these guys because they got money behind them. They want them to break. So there's we need hits. So what happens is you get this record is the 3rd record that comes out. By the way, not for nothing, greatest rock and roll logo ever.
Greatest rock and roll logo ever. Yes.
Fan designed. Flippity Dibbit. It's the same. So this record they put together, and the first album is very progressive. There's a couple of straight up just rock and roll, like the song Rock and Rollers is just straight up rock and roll song. But most of it's progressive leaning, at least. I mean,
it's a prog album, I think. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a mix of like Yes and Zeppelin and Genesis and a little tiny little bit of Sabbath and maybe a little bit of Kiss and Queen for sure. The second record still fairly progressive in spots, but they are streamlining things a little bit on that record. But really, it's with this one where the song lengths start coming down. And what happens here is this album, there's very little in terms of like straight up like songs like the Tower, the Fortune. There's really nothing on this record that reaches that level, that that song length, that epic, that grandeur. There's a song on here called Cast the First Stone that's like a Rainbow kind of song, just straight up like Rainbow-esque kind of metal, medieval metal. Just a Dream is kind of like I don't even know how to describe that. It's kind of like, it's real ethereal and majestic, kind of very moody kind of thing, but something that would have fit for sure on those 2 songs would have fit for sure on the first 2 records. But then you have, like, if you go through the record starting on side 1, Can You Feel It? Straight up hard rocker. She's a Mover is like a little bit more pomp rock, if you will. I mean, it's not as heavy. It has a great chorus. Big Boy, Let's Do It Again is kind of like, now they're getting a little bit funky and sleazy with that one. Telephone Exchange is super commercial. I think it's to date maybe at this point in the catalog, it's maybe the most commercial thing I think they've done. Why it wasn't a single, I'll never know. White Lightning again, kind of funky hard rock. The album is still fairly heavy, but it's definitely like not hit you over the head heavy the way the first two were. I don't think anyway. I know Butch from Sea of Tranquility would argue with me about that. He thinks this is their heaviest record, which is fine. That's
well, they lost a lot of that prog leaning though,
Yeah, I mean, it's so On the Rocks again, straight up hard rocker. These songs are all like in the 4-minute range instead of like 6-7 minutes. Then you got You're Not Fooling Me. That's it's more like a Queen kind of like pop song, really. And that Magic Touch even more so. Like that's not heavy at all. I don't even know how to describe it. It's kind of like lightweight, and I like it. I mean, I'm an apologist for this band. I like everything they ever recorded. And then then we get back to where I started. But the problem is that so Casablanca releases That Magic Touch as the first single, and if you know the record, you might like the song, but it's not a song that I can't even picture how that would have ever gotten played on the radio in the day. I mean, I can't see it being played in classic rock radio today. I think they missed the obvious hits from this record. I think it was just a tough sell, although, I mean, this did much better than the first and the second record. This one got up into the top 100 of the charts. This is where they really started having the big show with the boxes they appeared in, and the hologram behind them, and they toured. They were huge over in Japan at this point. They toured over there for it was like a week worth of shows before this record came out. So this really started them get bigger. I mean, this was like, now there were expectations behind them. So after this record, and where this is a transition, is half of this record is still pretty heavy, and there's a couple progressive moments like the first two, and then the other half is more commercial. So what happens next is they put out the White Hot album that's all commercial.
Right.
I think except for like Under Suspicion, and You Could Lose Me, which are kind of like Zeppelin kind of songs. They went like full on, let's get the hits. The closest they got to the top 40 from the White Hot record was that cover of I Ain't Gonna Eat Out My Heart Anymore. But this record like falls in between, and it's the bridge between the original progressive Angel and then the more power pop metal Angel that came after. And then unfortunately after White Hot, they put Sinful out, and that album tanked, and then they disappeared for years and years. And now we have them back again. We got Punky and Frank, and the last two records they made are really good. But I think this is a clear-cut transition record, where you can definitely see, like, when you lay the catalog out, exactly like that this is the record where they like segued into White Hot. It's like, if you can put White Hot on a hell of a band, you're like, you think it's two different bands almost. It's when you put this in between, you see the link.
I will say this, Butch, all Angel is good Angel.
I agree.
It's just different. It's just different. But yeah, that is a transitional record right there, because I think the first two records, maybe the second record's not quite as proggy as the first album, but it's still in that, wheelhouse. It's still within that range. This record is a departure. Yeah, totally. But it's not bad. It's not bad at all.
I think it's a great record. It's just, it's different than it's kind of like a, what's going on here? Like confusing almost. I could see, I was 6 when this came out. I didn't.
You weren't in the studio. 80s. You weren't in the studio hanging out with them.
I could see a fan being like confused by this record when it came out. I mean, totally. Like,
well, think about it. The band puts out these records. They get to the Sinful album, and by that time, Casablanca's going, you know what, boys? I know we've got, do you want an extension to your contract? We need a hit. There's no hits here. I know we can listen to it and go, wow, that should have been a hit, but it is what it is. Maybe it was timing. Maybe it was just the way music was at the time. But that's what it was. Casablanca's probably coming down on them going, well, we can't do any more of this prog stuff. Prog is out. We got to have more. What?
I have a comment about that when you're
Go
done.
ahead. I'm done on my
well,
rant.
It's notable,
but you know what I mean?
What...
These this isn't the first band that record companies have come down on and said, we need more, we need a hit, just saying.
But see, it's the same thing that happened to Genesis. They were a prog band and they weren't selling records very much. And then they dropped the prog as they gradually went on without Peter Gabriel. And then all of a sudden you've got the transition from Duke to Abacab, and then the next one just called Genesis, and there's no prog on Genesis.
Well, there's still prog on there.
Well,
it's not. It's a little bit more fine tuned, though.
It's a little more refined. But my point is, he said it. The original album with the Tower, and then Hell of a Band, and then that third one. Yeah. Their record sales went up as they went along, but they hit the peak. I don't know where it was. Maybe it was the one he just showed, On Earth as It Is in Heaven, because I remember I had a friend, my drummer, he liked Angel a lot, and he wouldn't even play White Hot or Sinful. He just said, those two suck, I'm not even going to play them.
White Hot was the biggest one. It was they all, if there was an album where they almost broke, it was that one. They almost had they just barely scraped the bottom of the, they could have made the top 40, and who knows. And that record did much better, but didn't, stalled short of gold. And at least here in the US it did. And it's a shame. And then right after, they fell off sharply after that record when Sinful came out. And Sinful's a great record as far as I'm concerned.
All the Angel catalog, even the last two that they put out, they're all worth picking up. So anybody watching this, don't get us wrong. We're not saying that this is a bad record or by any means. It's just different. All the Angel catalog is well worth picking up. And if anything, Angel deserves more love, because no one who's talking Angel anymore. Well, we are tonight. But I'm just saying, all that whole catalog is well worth picking up.
Well, I was so blown away by the Tower. I thought, oh my God, this band is incredible.
Oh, well, think about that first record.
Again, I'm in the minority.
Tower.
Yeah, I'm in the minority because I'm a prog fan, right? So yeah, as they dump it out by the third album, of course the critics are going to start raving about them because they don't like prog anyway. None of the critics liked it. They were always watching what people were gravitating towards and stuff, and you could just see it. When you take away the complexity of music, you end up, I call it appeasing the common denominator. The more simple your music gets, the more people follow you. And look at today. I mean,
people like stuff that sounds like something they've already heard before, or something that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
It's just the way humans are.
It's hard to dance to Gentle Giant, so
No.
It depends on the song. I mean, you could dance.
You can't dance a Gentle Giant, Butch, at all.
You thought we couldn't do it. It's a punk rock song. You could dance to that.
Maybe. All right. Excellent choice, Butch. We might only be able to go around twice, but here it's all about the conversation. And this has been a great conversation so far. But thank you, Butch. That's an excellent choice. Tom, let's throw it over to you. Nice to see you tonight. How are you?
Hey, guys. Good to see you. My second Contrarians episode. Glad to be here.
Look at you. You stuck around for episode 2. Congratulations.
Right. That's right. So Rand, you're reading my mind. My first choice is Duke by Genesis.
All right.
I'm such a Genesis freak. I'm such a fanatic. And I just had to go with them because as you mentioned, I mean, Duke came out. Talk about a choice of single, right? We were talking about Angel, the choice of single. You kind of wonder if it's just the wrong choice of single. But in this case, the single came out. I heard the first song from this record, and it was Misunderstanding. And it was like
so freaking good, though.
And it's great. It's great, but it's like it sounds like Hold the Line or like Sail On Sailor.
Summertime.
It sounds like Toto, for God's sakes.
It's got that dun, 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 dun.
Yeah,
it's kind of
fun in the summertime.
Yeah, it's just sort of got that feel, and you're like, wait a minute, this just sounds very different for a Genesis single.
Yeah.
And they had Follow You, Follow Me. That was sort of a hit for them. That was their first kind of minor hit off of Then There Were Three. So they got a little bit of taste. They got a little taste for that on Then There Were Three. But the rest of that record is not is not representative of Follow You, Follow Me.
Prog album.
No,
Yeah, it's basically Rutherford and Banks, most of the, just writing most of the rest of it. And it's really good. And I love Duke. I mean, I think this is a great record.
Oh, I love Duke too. It's a great record. Yeah.
I think it's excellent. And it's got that sort of, I always call it the rise of Phil Collins. This is where his influence starts taking hold of the band, because he started doing demos for Face Value before this record. And he was going to make a solo record because the other two had made solo albums. And it's a long story, but he was making demos, and they came over to his house because he was in an empty house because he just got divorced. So they come over to his house to listen to his demos. And they're like, hey, these songs are pretty good. And they pick a couple of the demos. Please Don't Ask is one of them. Misunderstanding is another one. And there's one other one, I think. But anyway, maybe there's just those two. But anyway, Alone Tonight, or Alone Again? No, I think that's Rutherford. But anyway.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there's a lot of Rutherford tracks on here, right?
Well, I think he wrote it for Phil because it sounds like his life at the time. If you read the lyrics, that's just what he's going through.
Oh, that's a good point.
If you look at a lot of these tracks from this era and you look who's writing them, a lot of those Rutherford tracks are very pop oriented.
Oh, Man of Our Times.
Yeah. A lot of them. You think it's Phil, but it's really not Phil. It's Mike.
Mike's into it too.
Mike is totally into it. Yeah.
No, I mean, and you can see Mike and the Mechanics is on the horizon, right? I mean, here it comes.
There you go.
So, but I think Tony liked a good pop song too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he said that even though he was the prog guy, he did like a good pop song as well. Mm-hmm. So anyway, but I just love this record, and I really think it's the definition of a transition album as far as
definitely
for sure.
Kevin, I think it's a great topic, by the way. I love this. And because there's so many examples of it, I had like a huge list, but this one really stuck out to me as this was the first time you really felt it was like they did a lot of band writing, a lot of, collaboration on this record. They still have a little bit of prog with like the Duke's Travels, Duke's End thing. They were going to do a suite originally, like the sort of Supper's Ready thing. And then they broke it up because they're like, I think it was 1980. Everyone was being influenced. Like it was a new, all these 70s bands were like, it's 1980. We got to do something different, And I think that's what happened with Genesis. And I think it's a great result. I think it sounds great. I think the songs are great. I mean, Behind the Lines is fantastic. Turn It On Again was a Rutherford riff that was really slow. It was like, it was really slow. And Phil was like, no, speed it up a lot. And then they did the and it really sped it up.
Brilliant.
It became kind of a hit, sort of a hit.
Yeah.
So,
I finally learned
FM rock staple, What?
You know that guy Rick Beato that does the videos for guitar? Mm-hmm. He showed me the other night how to do the riff for Turn It On Again. And he was surprised that was in 13. He didn't know it before he started the video. And I'm going, I've known that since day one. One measure of 7, one measure of 6.
A hit song in 13/8.
I know.
Yeah.
See, it's still kind of proggy, but they're smart. They
what the
slip it in.
track is on that album that nobody ever talks about except me is Cul-de-sac. Cul-de-sac is the coolest song.
Yeah, Cul-de-sac's good.
It sneaks up on you. It sounds simple at the beginning, but God, that's got to be a Tony Banks song, right? Because it gets so complex and
love it.
It's going.
Love it.
I'm sorry, Tom. Every time I see you, I want to call Saul. I'm sorry.
Oh, I get that a lot.
I never thought of that until now. Thanks,
Rand.
Have you
seen nobody? Have you? Seen
I get that a lot. I go to places, people go, have you ever seen Better Call Saul?
I'm sorry.
Poor Tom.
I know that's probably the last thing you want. Hey, I used to look like Justin Hayward.
Wait a minute, I can't tell. Is that an XTC Oranges and the Lemons t-shirt?
Yes, it is.
God, you're my favorite. Okay.
Hey, I'm wearing just so we're.
In crimson.
Did you see that? Rand went into a black hole.
Yeah.
Crimson lizard, but it's all faded out. You can hardly see it.
It's cool. Anyway, all right, let's keep this moving. I'm not going to talk, but I'm just going to host this one. Tom, great choice.
Yeah, I love it.
But the only thing I want to mention about Genesis, prog beyond, but these guys, the quality of songwriting, okay? Abacab, the Shapes cover, just keep going, Invisible Touch. These guys knew how to write a pop song. I mean, you can get that whole, everything after Peter Gabriel sucks thing, which is bullcrap. Peter Gabriel started producing pop too. Look at So. Exactly. What do you think So is? It's a pop record.
Yeah.
But, the core three, those three guys, Rutherford, Banks, and Phil together,
Magic.
They could write magic.
Yes.
And once they got down to that trio, all the whole Genesis catalog's great, but everyone should just embrace it. Those guys were great songwriters.
Another thing about Duke is that Duchess is the first time we hear the drum machine come in.
Yes.
I love the drum machine.
That changed their writing style because they said, oh, now we've got a metronome that sounds musical and we can just write to that and then Phil can play to whatever he wants. Yeah. And I think that's really where this is a killer transition album because that drum machine changed everything. I mean, you see what happens in Abacab and Mama. Oh my God. That's all drum machine.
It's good. I love it all.
Cool. It's all good.
Cool. Let's keep moving. Rand, I'm going to throw it over to you. What's your number 2?
Well, I just showed you my Lizard t-shirt, so obviously.
Oh, you gave it away.
Yeah, this album is so crazy. I mean, okay, first of all, somebody buys this and doesn't know anything about the band, then think the lead singer is John Anderson because he sings on Prince Rupert Awakes. It's a nice vocal. I mean, did good. He almost joined the band. I mean, Fripp tried to get him in the band, and then Fripp, actually, John Anderson tried to get him into Yes to play along with Steve Howe.
Wait a minute, get Fripp into Yes?
Yeah, and Fripp turned it down. He said, because I would have took over that band and probably ruined it in a month.
Probably.
But
Steve Howe won't share the stage with anybody, believe me.
Well, yeah, it was really tough. I wanted to go back just for a second about Genesis. Tom, the first concert I ever saw with Genesis was The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway.
Oh,
wow.
Killing me.
Phenomenal show. And also, it's on YouTube. The show that I saw is on YouTube. It's January 22nd. 1975, Berkeley, California, and somebody had the balls to put that up. I don't know how they recorded that. I have no clue, but it's
so
good.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really good. It brings back memories for me. But back to this King Crimson album. This thing is crazy. The one before it was compared to the first one. I mean, in the Court of the Crimson King, it is declared as the beginning of prog, the invention of prog. And I think that's ridiculous, but in a way,
I think Magical Mystery Tour was more.
There was no term called prog, trust me, in 1969. Nobody knew anything about it. So people were just saying, oh, well, that band's doing pretty interesting things. That was how it was done. And you walked into a record store and it was just A to Z and good luck, have fun. Try to find what you want. You can't listen to anything and you got to go buy artwork. Well, look at this artwork. The Beatles are on this. Jimi Hendrix Experience is on this. And Yoko Ono's on this with John.
You cannot have an album cover without Yoko Ono on it.
But the artwork on Lizard is just absolutely fascinating. And it's different than the one that came before it. In the Wake Up a Poseidon was compared to the first one because Greg Lake does all the vocal or some of the vocals. And of course, he's not playing bass on the second one. He's just singing. So everybody goes after the second album. It's the different drummer, different bass player, everybody except Fripp. And then he comes back with Lizard with a completely different band. But he does let Gordon Haskell stay on. And he hires John Anderson to sing that song I was talking about, which is part of the I think it's the Lizard Suite or whatever, Prince Rupert Awakes. And of course, it's a gentle song. It's mellow. And John does a great job on it, I thought. But the one that comes after this is Islands. And it doesn't sound anything like Lizard. It's very different, very pastoral. And it's got, again, with the different personnel. So I think when you change that much personnel, when you have your core is one guitar player, you're going to get these transitional albums. Almost every one becomes one. And then also this band would break up for gobs of years, and then come back with a whole different style, just like the jump from 74's Red to Discipline in 1981 is mind-boggling. There's no connection there at all. None. Even though it's the same guitar player, Robert Fripp, he's using guitar synthesizer now. He's got Adrian Blue. Bill Bruford is probably the most consistent carrier of the sound, but even he's playing synthesized drums. But in Lizard, you've got like this pseudo orchestra going on, Mellotron galore. I mean, there's just so much going on, and everybody's playing everything at the same time, and it's just a lot of people just think it's a cacophonic. What's that word?
Words are hard to say, but I don't know what you're trying to say, Rand.
Cacophony. Yeah. But how would you say a cacophonic mess? But anyways, that's the kind of the critics hated Blizzard. I mean, it just was. They absolutely destroyed that album. It didn't sell well, and Fripp hated it. He hated the sound of it until Steven Wilson came along and put this out, the remix and remaster, and then 5.1 it just comes alive. I mean, that guy is magic. But anyway, I would just say that the biggest transition album I could think of was between In the Wake of Poseidon and Islands, because everything else sort of connects. There's no outlier in King Crimson that doesn't fit, I don't think.
Well, what do you think about Red to Discipline?
Well, it's too long of a gap. Of course, it's going to be different, but it's 6 years.
Well,
no, it's 7
that still counts.
No, I know. I mean, but I already said that though. The stylistic change, and the only person that came along with Robert Fripp was Bill Bruford. I mean, now you got Tony Levin, you got Adrian Belew. I knew Tony Levin because I saw him with Peter Gabriel in 1977, but I didn't know anything about Adrian Belew except for that he'd played with Frank Zappa. But I wasn't too huge of a Zappa fan back then, but I probably did know it, about that. The video, by the way, Baby Snakes, is, you want to see Adrian Belew, that's the one to get, because he's dressed up as, it's a Halloween show, and he's dressed up as a army whack with he's like these little high heels that he's wearing and a skirt. It's funny as hell.
Love Adrian.
But yeah, Lizard. That's
Lizard. Mine. Good choice, Rand. All right, Kevin, what you got? What's your next one?
Next one might be a stretch, but I did see this band over the weekend. It's one of my favorite bands of all time, and the band is Alice in Chains.
Okay.
So they had 3 albums with the original lead singer, Lane Staley. He died in the early 2000s, and the band was dormant for a long time. And then they came back in 2009 and have had 3 albums since with new lead singer. But a constant throughout that has obviously been Jerry Cantrell, who's the guitarist and chief songwriter. And in 2002, he released his solo album, Degradation Trip. And this is I would consider it a very late grunge album, but a masterpiece. It's huge. It's 4 LPs on vinyl. So yeah, the first 3 Alice in Chains albums, they seem to get progressively darker and more depressing. And I love the band. I have to be in a mood to listen to albums 2 and 3, Dirt and the self-titled album. They're great, but I have to be in a certain mood to ingest them. The last 3 with William Duvall on lead vocals, I love, and I think they're more well-rounded. And I think this album is the link between those 2. I think this was Jerry dealing with his own drug issues, dealing with the death of his lead singer, his band falling apart. Lane was one of his best friends. He was dropped from his record label after his first solo album, I think came out in 98. This came out in 2002. Lane Staley actually died just as he completed this album. And like I said, it feels like a bit of a catharsis. But you get a lot of different flavors through his solo work, a lot more acoustic work. You see his influences through country, and even, I know he's a huge Elton John fan. So there's some slower ballads on there. But I think what it does for the band moving forward after the solo album, they always had heavy songs, and those first 3 albums have really heavy music. It's more of a mix now with the last 3 albums, and it almost makes the heavy songs sound heavier and the lighter songs more uplifting, even though there's always kind of a dark tinge through all of it. Also, I think he wrote songs a little differently, because now with William in the band, the lead singer, he also plays guitar. So he can write more textures into his songs. And I think the sound of the band always sounded dense, especially with those first 3 albums. Very heavy guitar and, tuned down and all that. But I think now they actually are. When you listen to the last 3 albums, there's a lot of layers of those guitars going on. And that's my second pick.
Super. Excellent. I love it. That's a good one. Butch, we get approval from Butch. So I'm good with that. All right. Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate it. Butch, what's your next one?
I'll try not to take up as much time with this one, but
we're okay for right now. We're good.
Another one of my favorite bands of all time is Thin Lizzy. So
yes.
There's a very clear spot in their catalog where they transitioned from what they were to what they would become. The first three albums are a mix of folk rock and some funk and a little bit of hard rock, kind of just tied together with. They're all over the place, tied together with Phil's, great voice and songwriting. And there's great playing on those records, but it's very much power trio kind of stuff. Phil on bass and vocals, Eric Bell on guitar, and Brian Downey on drums. Well, yeah, Eric Bell had enough of the band and quit on stage. Pretty much threw his guitar down. He finished the gig and then quit the band the next day. So they were kind of stuck. And so when they put the band, when they went to replace him, they ended up getting two guitar players in the band, and that was Brian Robertson and Scott Gorham. And then this was the result, this album, Nightlife. And it's, again, I'm a Thin Lizzy apologist. It is definitely not their best record. It is far from it, but it's clearly shows signs of where this band was really going to make their mark and really become a band that had something that was going to influence bands that followed. This record is where there were little bits and pieces of harmony guitars on. You can listen to Vagabond of the Western World, and it's got the hint of or Return of Farmer Son. Both have that Celtic kind of vibe to them with the guitars, but really the double guitars come into play on this record with Brian and Scott. And whether I've seen this story a couple times, and I swear I've seen it in an interview with Gorham. I know I've seen it in more than one place. It was almost an accident. They were in the studio and they were doing some overdubs, and the tape was slightly off from where they were, so it created like a natural kind of like harmony thing. And they thought, oh, that's really cool. So they kept, and they, obviously, other than after the Almonds and Wishbone Ash, these guys really took double guitar to new. Those bands did it great, but I think Thin Lizzy was really the band that upped the game on that. But it starts with the first couple songs she knows, and Nightlife, kind of like similar to what you might have heard from the first three records, kind of like laid back, bluesy. She knows there's a great harmony guitar solo in it, underrated solo. But then we get to track 3, It's Only Money, and not only like are the double guitars coming into place in this record, but they're like the heaviness that would come into play with some of their material really starts on this record. Like It's Only Money is a straight up hard rocker. Then Still in Love with You is a classic ballad. But then you get Frankie Carroll. It's kind of like an odd bird kind of Phil, kind of mellow kind of song. Showdown again is kind of just like kind of jazzy, kind of stuff, smoky and funky. Then you get Banshee and Philomena. I love Philomena. Still a little bit more folky than rocky, but such a great song. Sha-la-la, heavy Thin Lizzy. Great double guitars. Brian Downey playing his ass off on this one. Not surprisingly, this is a song live where he would do his drum solo. Tremendous song. I'm a singer. I could never do the. I don't know how Phil did all the sha-la-las in a row, because my tongue starts tying up once I get past the second one.
Well, you adjust your tape speed.
Yeah, as quickly as he's doing it. It ends with Your Heart. That's like just kind of like a little bit more laid back. I think it's a great record. Again, while it's not their best, it was the genesis of what would come next. Fighting would then, the next record took it another couple steps. Like it got heavier. They were never a band that was over the top heavy, but it was more like, you could see like a definite personality of this band developing over these two records. Like, whereas before they were like, are they over here? Are they a folk band? Are they a rock band? Are they a funk band? Like, what is it? It starts like all coming together with this record, and then Fighting takes it to the next step, and then you get to Jailbreak, which is the classic among classics. That's the a 10-star record as far as I'm concerned.
It gets a
and that's
5-star
where it really
rating.
comes together.
Yeah.
But this is a if you say the first two records I thought of when I thought transition albums were the Angel record and this one, because this is like you could definitely see like where they came from is still in here in spots, but where they were going is clear as day. Especially when you put it, it's like a perfect bridge between Vagabonds of the Western World and Fighting.
I'll tell you this, Butch, though. Vagabonds, the guitar sound on that record is absolutely, I love that record. Which one do you like better? Do you like Nightlife or Vagabonds better? I'm putting you on the spot.
I probably like Nightlife a little bit better. I much prefer the 4-piece Thin Lizzy lineup, especially the Robertson Gorham lineup, or Scott with anyone really. And then Black Rose, that stretch from Fighting through Black Rose are perfect records to me. I probably like this one a little bit more because it's more like it's got everything that I like about Thin Lizzy in one place. It's not just Phil's songwriting, but it's also got the double guitars, and it's got songs on here that I love songs on the first few records, but I don't connect as much with, say, much on Shades of a Blue Orphanage the way that I do the later records. Like I like those records, but they're kind of they're almost too quirky at times, and they're too all over the place. Like it's a band like a young dudes that are trying to figure out what they want to do, and it wasn't until Phil was working with two like guitar, hard rock guitar players that played in a slightly different style to Eric. I mean, Eric was a creature of the that power trio older style kind of thing, and these guys these young dudes and lit it up.
I get it.
Great pick.
Great catalog, you have to admit. All
Tremendous
those records, for God's sakes, you could pick any of them.
Awesome.
All right, Butch, thanks so much. All right, Tom, what you got? What's your next one?
Okay, up next. Great pick, by the way. When you said Thin Lizzy, I was thinking at first I thought Fighting, but you're right. It's more Nightlife, because Fighting is Fighting's a lot more like Jailbreak. So great. So great pick. Anyway, my next pick is another one of my favorite bands of all time.
Nice.
Yes.
Got to go with Ghost in the Machine. Definitely this is quite a change from Zenyatta Mandata. I mean, they this is really where Sting's influence becomes really, he's kind of running the band at this point. And he brings in a bunch of demos for the record that were finished and had lots of keyboards on them. And he actually brought in a keyboard player at the beginning of the sessions. And the other guys are like, wait, what? You're bringing in another guy. Wait, what's happening here? You're bringing in somebody to the studio? And that didn't last too long. I think he played on like one song or something, and then he was gone. They actually played to the demo of Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic, Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic was his demo. And they actually had to take his demo. They couldn't approve on it as a band. So they had to take his demo and do overdubs onto the demo. So that's Stuart Copeland talks about how difficult it was to do, but he finally got it.
Oh, brilliant though. Brilliant.
Yeah, but it's great. It turned out great.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about it, I mean, this album is it's all over the place. It's sort of dark. I mean, there's Invisible Sun and Darkness and Secret Journey and Omega Man. I mean, I love those songs. There's like this darkness to this album. But then there's this sort of like upbeat part where there's saxophones, like Too Much Information and Demolition Man and One World. And Andy Summers went on record saying, I kind of was losing interest when we started going into this saxophone crap. Like I just wasn't into that at all. Like he loved the power trio. And so, when you think about those first three albums are a power trio, basically. I mean, it's barely anybody else on those albums. And by this time Sting was interested in expanding the sound, and he wasn't backing down. And that's, I guess, for all intensive purposes, Hugh Patcham, who produced the record, was saying that he had to keep them in separate rooms because it was getting really heated. And then on Synchronicity, it was like all out war, apparently.
Oh, right. Yeah.
From what I understand.
It's true.
Because Stewart was trying to put his mark. He said, I kept trying to put my mark on the song, and Sting didn't want me to put my mark on. So it just became this like battle, this battle of wills kind of thing. And, but I love it. I mean, honestly, when Sting went solo, it just lost the fire. Like I like some Sting solo stuff, but it doesn't have the same excitement that the Police had. There was something about that, like any kind of tension in a band sometimes creates awesome music.
Well, Tom, it was that chemistry of all those three guys. All those other Sting records, it's Sting and a bunch of studio guys.
Right.
That chemistry that made the Police so great it was gone. You know.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
You know, it just is what it is. But
when Sting's calling the shots and saying, "Look, if you don't play what I tell you, you're going to get fired." You know, it's like it's not a band anymore.
But they knew. But if you've ever listened to Stuart Copeland talk, he said they only knew that they had Sting for an infinite amount of time. They knew Sting was it.
Right.
They knew the guy was brilliant.
Yeah.
And they were along for the ride, but they knew they only had him for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And Synchronicity was it, even though they never really broke up. But
he was writing the hits. He was the bringing.
Well, they knew. They just knew he had it all, and he did. He did.
And I love this album. I love it.
I love it. I'll give you.
It's a great album.
Story. Even though I'm not contributing, but I'm going to contribute to this. When this album came out, my buddies and I were really into the Police. Okay. When Ghost in the Machine came out, it was in your choice is 100% on the spot. When that came out back in the day, was that 81? Was that 82? 81.
Yeah,
81. We heard it and we went, or at least I did. Some of my friends went, "Oh, it's brilliant," but I'm listening to it going, something's not quite right. But I will tell you this, Tom, after all these years have passed and I listened to Ghost in the Machine, I can hear the brilliance in that record. Yeah, it's not Zenyatta Mondatta. They have grown. This is a band that was able to just grow by leaps and bounds. Think about it. Like night and day between this and Zenyatta. And and Synchronicity too. Let's just be honest. Sting was just like on fire. His songs.
He was.
They couldn't keep up. Yeah, Stuart Copeland's brilliant. Andy Summers, absolutely brilliant. But yeah, I didn't get it when it came out, but later on, I totally get it. That is my favorite Police album. I think it's absolutely brilliant from front to back.
Yeah. Yep.
Mine too.
Yep. Secret Journey. Oh, Secret. Love Secret.
There's something about that record, though, the tonality of it. I can't think of another Hugh Padgham album that quite sounds like this. You were mentioning how dark it is. It's very dark.
Yeah.
Most sinister, but all the songs fit together. Even Everything She Does Is Magic sounds dark. It doesn't sound, it tries to be light, but it has that that underlying darkness underneath. The whole record is, I don't know, it's just weird. But
it's got like an atmosphere of sorts. I don't know how to describe it. It's like an atmosphere.
Yeah, because you listen to Synchronicity, it's not anything like Ghost.
Right. Yeah.
Weird. I don't get it, but I love the brilliance of it and for what it is.
Invisible Sun is my favorite song on that.
Oh, it's great.
Excellent.
Great song.
Excellent.
You can almost catch the vibe of the record just by watching the video for Spirits in the Material World. Just how dark that video kind of is, and just the vibe of that song itself. That's my favorite song on the album. But that there, I think, captures the what you're going to get when you pick up that record.
Well, if you want to go around real quick and just say what your third pick was, as an honorable mention, let's do it. I like to keep these shows to an hour. So go ahead. Kevin, what was your third pick? And
I'm sorry, I thought it was my turn. Excuse me.
Was it your turn, Rand? Oh, Rand, go.
Rand's turn.
Okay, Kevin, you go. And I know, but whatever.
Yes, drama.
It's that loose that I've lost the order.
This came out 8/18/80. Okay, I just looked it up on Amazon. August 18th, 1980. This is the transitional album for Yes. This is so different than anything they've done before. Tormato sounds nothing like this. And
but it still sounds like it's not like 90125, which is way out there compared to Drama.
Well, this is 3 years before 90125. This sounds more like what's leading up to Asia. I think that
I agree with
Jeff
that.
Downes and Steve Howe are formulating Asia in this album on some of the music that they wrote. There's not one hit single on this. It opens up with a Black Sabbath kind of sound with Machine Messiah. I mean, I couldn't believe how heavy this album starts. It's the heaviest intro I've ever heard on a Yes album, and trust me, I've got them all. So, yeah, I think that Yes Drama is their big transitional album.
Chris Squire's amazing on that record.
He's a god on this album. He's just absolute god.
When isn't he amazing though? When was?
That's true. Good point.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tom. And
so Drama's good, but I think 90125 really was even more than Drama. But
I call that a lifeboat album.
How do you figure?
The band was dead and sinking like the Titanic, and Trevor Rabin and Trevor Horn came in and saved the group.
Yeah, true.
Lifeboat albums are albums that I think resurrect a group and keep it in the limelight.
All right, everybody, write this down. Another Contrarians episode. Lifeboat albums.
Lifeboat records.
That's a good one.
I've been saying this for 15
Where's my
years.
pen? Oh, it's not
I
here.
won't
Oh,
forget.
it's on the video. We're
Not
going to put
always
this
a
up
good
for
thing
next
either.
month.
I'll send it to you in a
Lifeboat
DM,
albums.
Grant.
Huh?
We know
I'll
the
send it
solution
to you
to when a
in a
boat
DM.
is sinking, though. You just add the buggles.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
buggles and
Well,
everything.
that's what it was. That's another thing too. This was
All right,
a lifeboat
we're
album,
going
but
to talk about that next year.
It wasn't
Lifeboat albums.
successful.
Yeah. All right, cool. That's a good one, Rand. All right, Kevin, I know you had Judas Priest. Go ahead.
It's Grease,
Thanks.
hell bent for leather.
I almost picked that one.
Yeah, it's them stripping back, a lot of the proggy bits, more streamlined. Production's a little brighter.
More commercial.
Yeah, more commercial, more anthemic. Evening Star, Rock Forever, Take on the World. See where they were going into the 80s.
For sure.
Yeah, good one. All right, excellent. I wish we've been having a great conversation. I don't care. I have no apologies to you people. All right, Butch, what was your number 3?
It's kind of a cheat because this really didn't come out here in America at first, but I'm going to go with this. Kiss Killers was a compilation, but they knew after Elder came out that they up big time.
Well,
and the 4 songs on here that they recorded new for this comp is I'm a Legend Tonight, Down on Your Knees, Nowhere to Run, and Partners in Crime. They did them with Michael James Jackson, straight up metal songs that had they done more, who knows what the rest of that record would have looked like. You can kind of get an idea by looking at the demos from the Creatures of the Night record. But I mean, these 4 songs, like, at least got them there. I think 2 of the 4 are great. 2 of them are okay. But it clearly got them back in the mindset of, okay, it's not the 70s anymore. It's 1981. We're going into 82. We have to get back to being a hard rock and a metal band. These 4 songs get them back into that mindset. They come out with Creatures of the Night, and though it was not a huge success, it righted the ship because next came Lick It Up. They took the makeup off. Lick It Up comes out there back to being, having another platinum record. So these 4 songs were kind of like the bridge to try to that got them back into where they were going, and also like show the more that 80s style that they go into. I mean, those 4 songs don't sound much like 70s Kiss. So
no,
I mean,
not at all.
Ace is on the cover here, but he didn't play. It's Bob Kulick on these songs. So that's why I picked that. I was struggling for a third one. I'm like, I know there's a bunch of them, but I thought it was
a good one because it definitely, Butch, it definitely fills that. Yeah, totally. That's good. It's a good one. I wasn't thinking that, but damn, I like that. All right, thanks, Butch. Awesome. Tom, what's your third one?
All right, I had to go with this one. This is almost like Rush's Duke. It's like when I heard and I heard Free Will and I heard Spirit Radio. I mean, that wasn't Hemispheres. This album, I love it because it definitely, like Genesis, they sort of it was a slow transition because Natural Science and Jacob's Ladder, those are pretty intense.
Smoking.
That's my favorite Rush right there.
That's my favorite Rush album too.
It's amazing. It's unbelievable. It's so good. I just put it on. I had to listen to these albums just to make sure they were transitional records. I do my homework, man. So I listened to it.
Starting to tear up a little bit, Tom. Don't go so fast.
So I listened to it and I was just like, oh yeah, this album's not only is it amazing, it is definitely they never went back to Hemispheres. I mean, Hemispheres was like
that was the end. Yeah.
They got to the point of like, we can't take this any further. When you listen to Hemispheres, you're like, these guys are on the edge of their ability. I mean, they are pushing their ability to the absolute limit. Yeah. And then, and it's unbelievable. I love Hemispheres too, but it's a totally that, they had to get to a point where they pulled back again, and they never quite went back. In Clockwork Angels, they did like a little bit of a concept record, but it was not like Hemisphere. It wasn't like that.
Yeah. Well, if you think about Permanent Waves, this is a whole other discussion. I think Permanent Waves, to me, when it came out when I was a kid, we thought it was the bomb because we were, we loved Hemispheres. We loved A Farewell to, we loved all that stuff, but we thought Permanent Waves really was holy mackerel. And of course, when Moving Pictures came out, we thought too, but I'm going to go on record. Someone could correct me, I'm wrong, but I think that Permanent Waves was the perfect record with keyboards, guitar. Alex
Yep.
Lifeson on this album.
I
His
agree.
guitar sound on this
Lights
record.
out.
His guitar sound on this record. Holy mackerel! And he's like a machine. This is a great. I think this is the perfect. This is where I think everything really. Well, I don't want to say that. I think it's the perfect record of guitars, keyboards. I think Neil Peart's drumming on this. Absolutely, his drum sound on here.
Yeah,
I think it's a prog
I
record.
love the way this record sounds. I love the way this record sounds.
Free Will.
I'll leave it at that.
So proggy. You know,
But
we
it's
were talking
still-
about Turn It On Again in 13/8.
Yeah, right.
Free Will is in 13/4.
But you
exactly.
can still dance to it, and it's catchy.
That's 13.
That's right. Yeah.
There
Yep.
you go.
But this whole album doesn't blaze itself out. I mean, broadcast itself out as a prog album, even though it is a prog album. I mean, the Spirit of Radio isn't very prog, but the rest of the whole album is prog. I mean, Free Will,
It could be prog light, I guess.
Natural Science is just insane. I mean,
If you compare Permanent Waves to Moving Pictures, you could look at Permanent Waves as being.
I think they go together like peanut butter and jelly because it was only 1 year apart. But I actually prefer Permanent Waves. I always have. I just thought it was the best Rush album ever because it took every prog thing that they had done and condensed it into something that people could really sink their teeth into, you know?
I think Signals is more closely related to Moving Pictures than Permanent Waves is to Moving Pictures.
Yeah. Well, that's Martin's favorite Rush album right there.
What one? Which one?
Signals.
Oh, I love Signals. I think it's
I like
brilliant.
Signals too.
There's
I had
like
it
one
on my
Rush
list.
album I hate.
What'd you say, Kevin? What?
I had Signals on my short list
Oh,
for Transitional.
See, you could
Yeah,
have
there
picked
you go.
up these different ones.
I didn't even
That,
have it.
That trio of records, Permanent Waves, Moving Pictures, and Signals, I think is the best songwriting period of time in Rush's career. I mean, I might like other albums better sometimes, but I don't like any period of the band better than that 3-record span. I don't think overall, just the writing and playing is so brilliant on those records. It's no
I'm with
surprise
you,
that that's
Butch.
when they connected most with the fans, and those records were huge.
The other thing is didn't Ray Daniels, after they recorded Permanent Waves, he said, "You guys are really onto something. We want to get you right back into the studio to do something." And that's where Moving Pictures came about. They were on a songwriting, what do I want to say? The melodies, they were right in the pocket, and Ray Daniels knew, we need to get you guys right back in the studio, capture lightning in a bottle, because you guys are really on it. And it only lasted for so long because
Terry Brown
left. Right. That's after
I
Signals.
think that has a lot to do with it too.
Yeah.
I think Terry was like the fifth. Look at us on a tangent. Sorry, I am not keeping this discussion.
Hey, we had to do a show on Terry Brown and get into Rush and Klatt too.
Oh shit! Here we go. Where's my pen?
I'll send it to you in a DM.
Send it to me. Brianna's all over all these great
We're going to
ideas.
do Iron Butterfly.
Yeah, but anyway, I think Terry Brown was like the fourth member. I do.
Oh yeah.
Because when
yes.
Terry was at the helm, they put out their best stuff. Obviously,
that's one reason I don't like Grace Under Pressure.
I love Grace Under Pressure, but I think that's the last great Rush album. And don't hate me, but
I don't think Peter Collins is as good as Terry Brown.
I think Terry Brown was brilliant, but
he's amazing.
If we only could rewrite history. All right, boys, let's shut this one down. I think this was a great discussion.
Yeah.
It was pretty damn loose, but that's okay. I'm good with that. I don't
know if I dissuaded people from trying to check out Kansas in the Spirit of Things. I would say it doesn't suck. It just doesn't sound like what you expect. And expecting music to sound a certain way is the death knell of enjoyment, because you set yourself up to be disappointed when you expect things.
Anytime you expect anything, you'll be disappointed.
Yeah, it's worth one listen. I mean, Steve Morse wouldn't have played everything he played on it if he didn't believe in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
True. I think it's a good record. It's not classic Kansas like that style, but I didn't think Power was either. I don't really care for that one as much. But I think they're both worth listening to for sure.
It's funny we compared it to The Elder, and Bob Ezrin did that too.
Yeah,
it's almost like the curse of Bob Ezrin.
I do love The Elder. I love it.
There's another topic. Curse of Bob Ezrin.
The
There you
curse
go.
of Bob
We've
Ezrin. Write
Oh
that
my God,
down.
ladies and gentlemen, we've
The
got
Bob
3
Ezrin
topics that
curse.
will appear next month.
Broke up Pink Floyd.
Exactly.
Wow, that is actually Tom. That is a good
How
topic.
many bands did Bob Ezrin
Curse
kill?
of Bob. How many bands did he
Look
destroy?
what happened to Alice Cooper.
Oh my God, that's actually good. We've got 3 shows coming up. All right. Anyway, gentlemen, I want to thank
They
you
were
for
all
coming
my
on.
idea. Don't forget. Oh,
What?
before we go, can I?
Oh,
Can I
here
plug
we
Here
my
comes the
album?
plug.
Rand Anthony Kelly, No Easy Access on Bandcamp. Please buy it. I need help. It's a good album.
You know, we couldn't get out
It's a
the
transitional
show
album
without
because it's the only
Rand
one I've got.
doing a plug.
I want that on vinyl, Rand.
Yeah, you
You
get
can't
it on
afford
vinyl.
Butch.
All right. Well, anyway, thanks, Rand, for that plug. Anyway, I
you.
want to thank Rand, Kelly, Kevin, Butch, and Tom tonight. What a great discussion. Yeah, we were loose.
Yeah, I had fun.
It's all about the music, kids, not about the medium. It's all about the music. So maybe you want to check out some of these records we talked about. Hopefully you will. Hopefully you can give us something in the comments.
This is the best.
No, that's a damn.
That
That's,
Yes
my favorite,
Trauma is great.
that's my favorite Yes album. Anyway,
If you're into King Crimson and you don't know about this album, shame on you.
it is hard to close a show with Rand Anthony Kelly next to you. Anyway, so thank you, everybody. Please, in the comments, let us know what you think. If you'd like to be on these panels, you can be on these panels too. We do have a Ko-fi. We have a Patreon that you can come on and you can join in the conversations. Send us a pint. Send us a coffee in the Ko-fi. We love that. We also like donuts. Feel free to send us money. We like
Like
it.
and subscribe.
And like and subscribe. We do this because
Yeah.
we're just music addicts and we just like to do it. So
We're
anyway,
nerds.
gentlemen, thanks for coming on. Thanks for the discussion. I don't know what's next. I know I'm hosting 2 things tomorrow. You might be
Pink
on them. I
Floyd, A
don't
Momentary
know.
Lapse of Reason.
That's right. Thanks, Rand. If I didn't have Rand here to tell me what I'm doing, what am I going to do? All right, everybody, good night, and we'll see you on the next one.